All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the Sports Card Therapist. I'm Rob Girard, your sports card therapist, along with
Ken, sports card lessons.
Haha, Ken. How you doing, man? Another joint episode done by us. How's it going, man?
It's going well, man. I love this collaborating. I love when we do episodes together. It gives us just a little more time to hang out.
Oh, it's great, man. Absolutely. It's without a doubt. And the good thing I feel like too is when we get together and we talk and we do collab episodes or whatnot, I feel like we're always bringing something of substance, like the thing that I don't like when I listen to content and like kind of like friends get together and link up or like, and we've talked about that because we're going to be dropping Wolfpack episodes, right? Where there's going to be like four guys of the Wolfpack on one episode. And we talked about how like we don't want it to just be like a BS session with like a bunch of inside jokes that no one gets. It's like, no, do like I think when you and I get together, we keep it about the hobby. We keep it about the cards and we keep it about what is going on, not only with us, but on a macro level with the hobby as well.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we do on a daily basis too. So that's just a carryover, to what we record when we do these episodes. Because a lot of times this is what we're doing. We are 100% in the hobby, right? We're 100% into the content. Um, we create content, we listen to content, we talk to each other about the content that we've taken in, we talk to each other about the hobby, things we heard, what's going on. So yeah, it's I think that's what makes this special. I think we're not two guys that sit around and talk about things that nobody else would really understand, right? If somebody else, in any of our conversations, if somebody else were to listen in on them, they would know. If they were in the hobby, they would know what's going on, and they would learn a thing. They would learn some things too. And I think that's a lot of our interaction. So I think when it carries over to here, it's not. It's nothing that people don't understand. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, very well said, man. And so for me, I know we're going to be airing dueling episodes, so that we're going to be, airing this episode on my channel and this episode on your channel as well. For me, this is episode 141, and the name of this episode is called "Shifting Gears in Our Collecting." And so for you, what episode numbers is the Monday drop going to be for you?
Season 2, episode 6 for me.
Wow, so 56 in total.
Yep.
Man, so 56, that's a beautiful thing, man. And Ken for Sports Card Lessons, you've definitely been doing your thing, man. Huge fan of your podcast. Not only are you absolutely one of my best friends, but we are uh fans of each other, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um so real quick, just some housekeeping stuff. This episode is dropping for me on my channel Friday, January 20th. And what I want to say is Friday night. So if you're listening to this in real time tonight, Ken and I are going to be having a Instagram live, right? Instagram live, or are we going to do YouTube live? What are we going to do? What do you want
I
to
think
do?
it's YouTube Live.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're gonna do YouTube live. So if you haven't already subscribed to Sports Card Therapist, and we're gonna be doing YouTube live probably about we're gonna shoot for 8:30 p.m. and we're gonna shoot for 8:30, and we're just gonna do kind of our PSA submission reveals. And not that I know if anyone really cares, I'm not sure, but I know I actually do enjoy watching people's PSA sub reveals, right? It's like we haven't gotten the cards yet. We don't know the grades, so that's kind of it. That's an exciting aspect of. I mean, really, what is better than getting back? I mean, between mail days and submission uh mail days, what's better than that?
Uh, there is nothing. I mean, a PSA order coming in. There's nothing better than that. These nice new shiny slabs and the anticipation of what it's going to be. And this is one of but two orders that we have out. This is the first order coming back, which is about 28 cards, right? And our next order is almost 100 cards, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable how many cards, that And that's the excitement. I mean, the mail day, we know we've studied, we've talked to people, we've looked at edges and corners, and we've purchased these cards and whatever. But PSA, you have no idea. You've done your best, and you just throw it out there. It's like a child, right? You've done your best with the child, and you put it out there in the world, and you hope they come back at 10.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. And Sunday, I'm actually going to be going live again. So Sunday, and this is perfect because the playoff game, the Cowboys 49ers playoff game, East Coast time starts at 6:30. Actually, it actually starts early. So, which means by 9:30, the game should be wrapping up. I'm going to be going live on Sunday, January 22nd with my good friend Nate, who is at in Cardboard Veritas, and we're going to be watching the final 30 minutes of the PWCC auction, and then we're going to be watching the first 30 minutes of the extended bidding. So we're going to be on YouTube live from 9:30 to 10:30 East Coast time. So please subscribe to Sports Card Therapist YouTube channel, and we're just gonna, keep that going, keep that rocking and rolling. And I know for me, I want to say thank you to everyone that listened to uh, participation is required. My episode from this earlier this week, that was, part two, which was a really cool thing. I felt like I was able to do as a part two, and it was a follow up to a season one episode of participation is required. And then you had on a friend of mine and now a friend of yours, Jeremy Lee, you had on your show last week. So I mean, that was a great interview, man.
Thanks, man. A huge shout out to Jeremy. I mean, just what a great guest. What a great guy. I mean, we could have talked for 2 hours on there, 3 hours maybe. He was just such a great interview, a great guy, and just a pleasure to meet and talk to. Definitely look forward to collabing with him in the future. And we talked about getting up to Toronto. Hopefully, you'll be able to break away for a couple of days, and get up to Toronto to the show up there in the spring, and see him and check out some cards.
Yeah, man, and I know that you had told him about being in Winnipeg, and he said, "You know what? I was actually I heard that podcast that you did," and he said, "I was walking through LAX airport as I listened." And it's crazy because same thing with me, man. Like I can and I don't know if everyone's like this to an extent, right? I really don't. I know that um in certain aspects I have a complete photographic memory, and in some aspects I blank stuff out. Like when it comes to music and movie, television trivia, like there's I haven't met anyone that can beat me with some of that stuff. When it comes to trivia, it's like I feel like I'm a walking, talking IMDb or a walking, talking Wikipedia page. But so and it sounds like him. He's like, you know what? I remember listening to the episode. I was walking through LAX. Like he walked you all the way right through it. So that was kind of cool. That was a kind of a peek behind the curtains into what his life was like.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that you're so into that. I am too, and having kids that were into it too, that were movie and music. There was never a time when we were all together. And we weren't quoting movies, like just funny parts from funny movie all the time, just constantly. And you know, as we get into the show today, we're going to talk a little bit about, why I've shifted a little bit in my collecting, and this is exactly the reason why. Those things, those little things that just you can't forget when you hear a song, or you can't forget when you hear a phrase from like it's like ingrained in you. Like people, I say all the time, my wife could tell me to get something when I'm in the other room, and I'll come back from the room and she'll be looking at me like, well, did you get me? And I'm like, oh no, I forgot. But there's a song that, something happened 20 or 30 years ago that I'll remember. As soon as that song starts, I'll remember. So yeah.
Yeah. And leading us into the topic of shifting gears in our collecting, they say you are who you hang with, and I think you hang out with someone long enough, and I think you start to maybe pick up some of their behaviors, you start to pick up some of their lingo, you start to kind of do things maybe in a way that they do things, and I feel like you and I are really kind of on that path, right? And so, first of all, before I even get into that, I just want to say, this past Thursday night, I started up a Twitter buy sell trade thread. And this is something I really want to urge you, Ken, and really all the listeners, if you're not on Twitter, to make a card Twitter, okay? Because that's something that I've done, and it took me a while because really you start to follow certain accounts, and basically all they do is post a picture of whatever, a logo or a design, and they're like, buy, this is a buy sell trade thread, anything goes, or they might have specific rules, baseball only or football, non-sports cards only, pop culture only, and then from there people respond with pictures and prices, and then you can go down and just scroll through the entire conversation of people making offers or people saying, take it, I'll take it, I'll take it, deal, almost like Facebook groups, and I think that's something that you miss with Instagram because you don't really get that. But so I just started my a vintage buy sell trade thread Thursday night. It was a success. I felt great about that. Also, I'm going to be doing another Instagram live vintage night. It's going to be the last Saturday of January, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm probably going to bring on between 5 and 7 collectors that are going to be showing off some of their things. And so with the shifting gears, right, in our collecting, you have really, and I've noticed a big switch in your collecting and in your buying, but I don't know if that's necessarily just because seasonally, like you've talked about on your podcast, football's, all but done now. So there's really no reason for you to be buying Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow or Tom Brady or any of those guys. So is it just kind of convenient that it's not the time to buy them? So now you're switching and buying stuff you really love? Or do you feel like you're really kind of stepping away from that prospecting lane?
Oh, I'm definitely, getting out of the prospecting lane. Um, you know, as I go, and I'm really, to myself, I'm calling this the hobby progression, right? I couldn't have gotten to this point where I am now without going through what I did over the last 2 years. It's a hobby progression that no matter how I got here, and I say this for anybody because I think anybody in the hobby, if you stay long enough, no matter how you got into the hobby, whether you were out and you came back in, or you whatever the reason, I think if you stay long enough, you go through this progression unless you leave, right? And I think it's just, I've talked to a lot of people that have gone through similar things to myself, but only after I put it out there on my podcast, where I said, look, my new year, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to change directions. Even though, like, hockey's not a big lane out there, and music cards is not a big lane out there, and pop culture, I mean, some of it is, some of it isn't, but it's what gets me excited, right? So I'd been through the 2 years in the hobby, and there was a big run to, buy what, it was always about buying what other people wanted to buy, because I was setting up at shows. So whatever sells, I'm going to buy these things. And what I realized was, at the shows for the longest time, it was the the best money, the best margins would be made on prospecting. You go out and you rip these boxes and you pull the quarterbacks out and you put them, you sleeve them, you can 2, 3, 4 extra money, quick, quick, quick. But it wasn't what was getting me excited. It was just what was I was able to sell at the shows, right? So now,
Well, you were getting the rush of the flip. You were
yeah,
getting the rush of the purchase of
yeah,
you were getting something that was coveted,
yeah.
right? So you were getting the rush of the purchase. You were getting the rush of people stopping by your case and seeing what you had and asking you all about your cards.
Mhm.
Um, but and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I know there's really 2 things that you've taught me so many things. Every time I talk to you, you're teaching me something, I feel like, but really, I feel like the 2 biggest major takeaways that I've gotten, and I know I've probably heard it a million times, a million different ways, but just the way that you said it both times have really stuck with me and taught me something. And you probably know what I'm going to say. But the first one was I cannot set up at a show with cards I just bought off of eBay and think I'm going to turn any kind of profit, because the first thing they're going to do is look up on eBay, or they're going to check comps, and that's going to be my comp. And you know what? They're going to want it for 10 to 15% under comps. So that's a losing battle right there. And I think that's common sense, but it wasn't until I heard you really worded like that it made sense. And the second thing, and this was more recently that I learned, and that really kind of clicked too, was you you can go after the coveted stuff, the stuff that people play hot potato with, the stuff that if you buy early, you can make money off of by flipping, whether if it's prospects or the hot quarterbacks or the hot NBA players. But the thing is, what people do is they come up to your table and they ask you for all your prices, and then they walk away, because what they're going to do is they're going to price check every other table and every other display case in the room. So basically, your competition, when you have cards that are the most popular and the most coveted, meaning, like right now, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, or, Curry or Giannis in the NBA, that kind of stuff. When you have, or Julio Rodriguez in baseball, when your case is full of those cards and you've put all your eggs in that basket, guess what? You're competing with every other dealer in that room.
Mhm.
So that's why I think, really, I feel like that's a big part of the reason why you're really starting to move to more unique things that strike a chord, and a nostalgia chord with you as well.
Yeah, and I'll get to the nostalgia in a minute, but the cards, if you notice what I'm buying too, I'm looking for the more unique ones. The pop counts are very low. Pop 1, pop 2, pop 3, because I don't want 7, 8 other dealers in the room to have the same card as me, and I don't wanna.
Give me an example of a pop 4 or pop 3 card that
So I have
you're
I
looking
have
at.
a pop 2 Josh Allen that it's a RPA, and I traded into that, I don't know, it's been a month now, maybe I traded up into that card. Um,
See, my concern with those cards though is, and I'm gonna make something up off the top of my head right now, but I would imagine there's probably at least 100 different Josh Allen RPAs out there.
yep, yep, there absolutely is, but there and there's higher level and lower level, but I'm not buying one that that's numbered to that card is an RPA and it's numbered to 10, right? So, and it's only the card right now and its grading is a pop 2 and there's none higher on that card. So the other ones were probably graded, because why wouldn't they have graded them? And they came back probably 7s or 7.5s, and they cracked them back out of the case and sold them off as raw cards, and possibly nobody else has ever graded those cards. So right now, those it's a pop 2. So to me, that's a card.
So Ken's looks like Ken's camera just froze a little for a moment, so I think it's probably his Wi-Fi. But one thing that I've realized about myself is that, and I think this is true for a lot of collectors, is that I'm a collector first, right? I'm a collector first that just so happens to set up. So when I'm setting up, I am faced with that struggle. I'm faced with that like conflict of like, what do I put out in my case? Right? Because everything I work toward, whether when I'm moving cards in order to secure PC cards. But by doing that, what I'm doing is I'm truly taking the inventory that I have in my case, like, completely out of it. So, I do get stuck, I think sometimes even still, I feel like I'm so much smarter of a hobbyist, if that's what you wanna call it, but I do find myself still having to buy things that I don't necessarily wanna collect because I need something to put in my case, you know what I mean? So, I think that's the cool part about setting up, is that when you set up, you have people walk up to your table with stuff, and it might not be something that you normally buy, but it gives you the opportunity to kind of, be flexible. It gives you the opportunity to try different things. And to me, that's really cool. So in terms of shifting gears in our collecting, right? One thing that I realized was that just like anything in life, my collecting is continuously evolving, right? Like time waits for no one, and I almost feel like my PC waits for no one. You know what I mean? So it's like the stuff that I was really buying hardcore for my PC, say a year ago, like the big cards I have behind me, these are big cards I want to hold for a long time. But the thing is, I don't only own 6 cards. I'm constantly kind of buying, selling, trading. I'm always watching, I'm always refreshing my eBay watch list. I'm on Twitter a lot recently looking at the vintage threads that people are buying and selling. And I actually took a big step recently because, as you guys know, with my roundtables that I've had, with the roundtables, it really sparked something in me with wanting on card signed in person rookies and cool cards like that. You know what I mean? Like in person kind of cards. And I have a couple right here. And I, I, I can't wait to post these on Instagram altogether. It's so funny because I know we've talked about this in the past, and like how silly it sounds sometimes with how silly it sounds with, like, you get cards and you're already thinking about, um, how you're gonna set them up, how the picture, I get so excited to, like, post a picture of the cards, not because I'm looking for people's approval or anything like that, but I think it's just that I'm really excited to share what I have. That's what it comes down to. I'm excited to share what I have. So, just recently, I've been buying, and I think I showed this on the last episode and talked about it on the last episode, but I have the Derek Jeter 1993 Pinnacle, um, on card in person auto, right? So I have that, and welcome back, Ken. So I have that. I also recently picked up this 1994 signature rookie Derek Jeter. So I'm really kind of leaning into Jeter. And then I also picked up this minor league card of Jorge Posada on card signed auto. So I'm really like leaning into what feels good. I'm leaning into what feels good and what I know I will enjoy years from now. And in order to free up the money to buy some of these bigger Jeter cards or some of these bigger Ichiro cards that I've been starting to buy that I've talked about, I actually started moving some of my Phil Rizzuto PC. And that was a side PC that I had really started up and beefed up probably about 4 or 5 months ago. Um, and don't get me wrong, they're not incredibly high value cards, right? I mean, I think the most expensive Rizzuto card I had was maybe 300 bucks. So they were all like 300 or less, but I felt like, you know what? I've owned these. I've really enjoyed them. But for me right now, I would rather put that money into some, Ken was talking about low pop count, to some low pop count Jeter in person minor league signed autos. I don't know why, but that's just what felt right to me at the time. So like I was saying, my collection, my PCs, they continue to evolve. It's like life. Nothing stops. Everything is always changing and in motion. And I don't wanna buy my cards just to kinda sit in a box, and even if I take them out and look at them, if I'm not getting those same feelings from them anymore, and I feel like it's time to move on, then you know what? I'm gonna move on from them. So Ken, welcome back. I know you had a little bit of technical difficulties, but
Yeah, a little internet trouble here. It's the first time we ever lost internet, so I apologize for blinking out. But
no, all good, man. All
yeah,
good. So, yeah, I was just, really talking about how I've continued to curate my collection and curate my PC and the struggle that I have with setting up as a collector
hmm
because the stuff that I set up with is usually stuff I'm looking to move into PC cards.
hmm
But as that dwindles down, I
then what do
do
you
reach
do?
a point where I'm forced to buy stuff that
Yeah.
I don't want long term to fund more PC stuff. So I'm kind of curious like where you're at with that whole thing and
Yeah, so my changing now, and I'm very active at the shows, so I am starting to sell off stuff, and some stuff, the price has dropped, and I talked about this on many episodes. The price have dropped. I'm at where the current comps are, and I'm willing to sell them, and then I'm buying, cards that I will PC, but cards that I can put in my case. So, like this past or 2 shows ago, I had some lower end Alex Ovechkin cards, and I had threw those in my case and priced them correctly, and they ended up selling. So I took that, and then I bought what I talked about was a higher end Mario Lemieux rookie card. So even though I'm at the show and I'm selling certain things and doing, I'm also like working on my own PC. Like I'm okay to sell some lower end to pick up some higher end, and we all do this as collectors. Our minds never stop, right? They never stop, and we're always looking, and we see something new. We're like, oh, now I need one of those, and I want one of these. And what's important to us, right? To me, that's really what I'm figuring out now. That's my next stage of my progression. What's important to me is having rookie cards of all these players more important than having maybe a second or a third gear auto or numbered or shiny or this or that. What becomes more important what to me in my collection, because those cards are for me now. With like some of these cards I purchased, if I sell those cards, if those cards sell in my case, then it's maybe up to a higher end card or something else I'm looking for. But there's certain cards like my Alex Ovechkin PMG card. I am not looking to sell that card. I love that card. I'm going to do, I call it the Rob, right? I'm dropping on my case at a price or no price and just say it's really not for sale. I just didn't want to leave this one home today. I wanted to have close by at the show. It's like leaving your pet or your child. I don't want to leave them home alone when I have them here at the show. But um, yeah, I mean, this whole progression now, and this is all new, right? So I've talked to other people. I'm talking to other people. We talk about it. Like if we keep PCing, like selling the stuff that we really just want to sell, and we keep using that money for a PC, at some point we're not going to be able to set up at a show because we're not going to have anything left to sell, right? So to me, the business part needs to stay in there, and I think you know me shifting gears is going to be with the movies and the music and hockey. So you'll see I'm picking up, and you'll see tomorrow night with the live. I graded a bunch of uh young guns cards and hockey cards. So rookie, this is probably at the tail end of my prospecting when I was buying these hobby boxes of hockey, and now I'm grading a lot of these cards. But these cards will be for sale because, again, they're prospecting, they're young players, and if they become hot, I'm happy to move them, right, and take that money, because the real collecting for me now is into more of the goats, people that aren't even playing the sport anymore when it comes to hockey.
wow. Listen to that, you going into the goats. Dare I use the V word and say vintage or no?
Maybe that's okay.
79 and earlier,
Yeah,
that's typically what's considered vintage.
yeah, yeah. I talk about it all the time. I in the early '70s watching, hockey. I mean, we grew up watching hockey. We had three channels on the TV, and if there was a hockey game on, we only owned one TV. We all watched it, right? So, I mean, hockey was really in my blood. So, there's a lot of players from the '70s right on up that I watched play, and I know a lot about.
And you know what's cool about that is the fact that if you have a nostalgic feeling or a passion for some of these 70s hockey players that people that probably, I mean, their cards probably cost a couple of dollars. I mean, that's like the ultimate, right? And I'll give you 2 examples. One just recently, and you could probably even see my comp on eBay. I actually, I've been like kind of like low key. I haven't really posted anything because there's not so much worth posting about. But Giants, 80s and 90s New York Giants, and 80s and 90s New York Yankees, I've just been buying up a ton of in-person signed autos, on-card autos. I've been buying these up for months now, so I probably have hundreds of them now. And just last week arrived in the mail. I got 30 New York Giants, 1980s and early 90s, 30 of them on card in-person autos. I paid $50 total. So I
Nice.
paid like what, a buck 75
Mhm.
per
Yep.
card. And I mean, there's a Bill Parcells in there. Like that's my childhood, and so for me to be able to collect these, like I just envision myself like having a really cool binder full of all New York Giants in-person autos. I think about the stories behind these cards getting signed. Was it a kid at a practice? Was it, a guy who makes a living doing these? Because there's some eBay accounts that I found that that have about 50,000 listed listings, and every single listing is a in-person on-card raw auto, and it's like you know that these aren't fake because you wouldn't fake these players. Like the players that you're going for, like he's selling them for $1.99, $4.99 a piece. Like, you're not going to fake those, and then you compare it to other autos. If you really want to go down that rabbit hole, it's like, okay, this is legit. But also today I am and I posted a video on Instagram about it. I've been set building 1951 Bowman baseball cards now, the baseball card set, and I just struck a deal with a guy, and this is me kind of shifting gears not only in my collecting, but I think the way I go about finding cards, right? Because I think you and me were kind of the same, right? When we first jumped back in the hobby around the pandemic, it was Facebook groups. Then I was able to kind of urge you to get on Instagram and tell you all about Instagram, right? And now you're all in on Instagram. So now this is me urging you to get onto Twitter and discover Card Twitter. And also through Card Twitter, there are Discord groups, and I mean, I can't even explain to you what a Discord group is. Basically, you
I,
download an app called Discord,
mhm.
and as long as
I
you
I
get
have that. I have that.
oh, there you go.
Yeah,
So
I've used that. Yeah.
yep. So there are, I'm in a Discord group, and some guy, I think I had posted like wanted 1951 Bowman Commons, and like 2 weeks later, all of a sudden I get tagged and they're like, someone's like, "Who was it that asked for 1951 Bowmans?" And someone said, "I think Sports Card Therapist did," and tagged me in this Discord group. And I was like, "Yes, absolutely, definitely me. What's up?" And he's like, "This is what I have. I have a full stack." He's like, "I have send me what you need." So I sent him like my list of cards I'm looking for, and he was able to find 88 cards. Now this set is 324 cards. So
Wow.
so today I received a package of 88 1951 Bowman cards, and you know how much I paid for them?
Yeah.
$3 a piece. And you know what? It was actually less than $3 a piece. Um, no, it was $3 a piece. Yep, $3 a piece.
Was that the
Eh
same cards you were trying to negotiate at the show in Springfield for? Were those the
Yes.
same cards? Yep.
Yeah, so the guy at the Springfield show, walks up to my table and just has, like, 50 1951 Bowman cards, right? And, but I think we were way off in
Yeah.
price. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it wasn't he was I don't think he was overcharging or, he just believed in what his cards were worth. They were in good condition.
Mm,
They were in they were they would probably get, like, 5s and 6s if graded, which for a 1951 is incredible. I mean, this set is 72 years old, but he wanted like $20 a piece and he wanted to value it and it was like it would have been like $600 and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm all set, because I know these are going to come around again. So, and I'm not necessarily looking for mint condition commons. I'm looking I don't want, crinkled up commons, but I wouldn't mind a couple rounded corners,
mm. And is that's not something you'll grade, you'll just build that set, right?
Definitely,
Put it
yep.
in binders.
And the thing is, like, it's absolutely a passion project for me. I shouldn't say it's a passion project because it's definitely an investment. I think this podcast so far has been a passion project, but, the 51 Bowman set, it's definitely an investment. I have the biggest card, which is the 51 Mickey Mantle right behind me. I have that. The second biggest card is the Willie Mays. I don't have that. That's not as expensive as the Mantle. Um, I can probably get a pretty decent maze right now for between 3 and 5K if I really wanted to pull the trigger on it. But yeah, an entire completed set, 51 Bowman. Yeah, that could fetch a pretty penny depending on the grades of the mantle and the maze for sure. And
Mm.
there are some pretty iconic like Whitey Ford rookie, there's some pretty iconic rookies in that set alone. But I'm just having a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah. It's exciting, get you excited, right? I mean, shifting gears, that's what we're talking about. Uh,
Yeah.
I've been just so excited and looking at, doing a lot with these music cards. Um, I've discovered the American Pie set, from 2001 and 2011, and I've been going through those, and it's just been amazing, like looking at these cards and some of the stuff I talked on my episode. On Monday of the 1980 Olympics, being, the hockey team, the Olympic hockey team winning gold, just being such an unbelievable moment in my life. And here I was looking for cards, and here's a 1980, here's them winning gold, and it's a trading card. I'm like, are you kidding me? And it's this, and all of a sudden I'm like, what is this set? Now I'm like, I'm all the way in. I'm all in on the new set. Now I'm going through, and there's just such great cards in there. Um, and you heard on the interview with Jeremy Lee talking about Anchorman, that there's a special version with
Yeah, DVD, right?
yeah. So I've already bought two. I'm waiting for them they'll be shipped, right? So it's just hunting. And another thing that I'm excited about too is the women's soccer. I went down, I watched my first game this past summer down in North Carolina, the Courage. I really liked it. I've been following along with it online with a lot of the young players, these 17-year-old phenoms that have been drafted or signed over the last year, and I've been able to pick up some of their cards, and I have at least one of the cards is in this reveal we're going to do tomorrow night. So I'm excited about that. But I picked up a bunch of other cards. The Trinity Rodman is another one, and I've even been watching Team USA. Now they're having warm up games, getting ready for the World Cup this summer. There was just a game on the other night. I put it on and I watched it. And all of a sudden, it's like a whole new life with this, this new collecting and these new things. And I'm just so excited, and I'm all over the place, right now. I'm really excited. I'm like a kid in a candy store all over again after 2 years of being in one lane and now switching into another lane and doing some different things. Yeah, it's just, really re-energized me in the hobby.
Yeah, and I think this is something that resonates with a lot of people. And I've talked about this before, all right, because there were a lot of people that came in either right before the pandemic or at the beginning of the pandemic, right? And all most of us, we collected when we were younger, we rediscovered it, we're buying back little pieces of our childhood, it feels like, in our youth. And um but our first when you Google like sports cards or you look up on YouTube sports cards, right, you're going to find a lot of investment stuff. And I think the mindset that people had coming in was, wow, so I can collect and make money and try to flip and really kind of get back in the game, get the juices flowing. This is kind of cool. And then once you start to realize, like, okay, you know what, the market is correcting, um, people start to either leave or they start to realize, like, going through the cycles that we're going through, like, okay, like, this isn't any fun. I don't want to get left holding the bag on a card that or a player I don't even care about.
Max
So what do I love? And I think the best way to figure out what you do love is to still participate in the hobby, be active, go to shows, be on Instagram, be on Twitter, be on eBay, and just see what kinda tickles your fancy, I mean, don't get me wrong, when I'm scrolling through these big name accounts and, knowing that Patrick Mahomes has a big playoff game coming up this weekend, and I see a guy posting a $50,000 Mahomes card, like, yeah, that's pretty cool, but at the same time, would I want that much money wrapped up in a card? I would love to have that kind of inventory, but I also have to remember that most of these guys or females that have these massive inventories were in this well before us.
Yeah, that card
And
could have been just a 2 or $3,000 card for them, an investment. Yeah.
exactly. Or they just, when cards got hot, they already had the inventory. So it doesn't matter who they had. Prices went up and it gets to a point where, and we've talked about this too, when we're at a show, if we're having a big show and we're making 5, 10, 15, 40 grand at a show, and we're turning around and buying a $15,000 card because we had a good show, like, it could almost feel like monopoly money. Like, it doesn't even feel like it's real cash,
Yeah.
because if I were to take a step back and be like, wow, hold on, I just made 40K at this show. I should probably pay my mortgage for the next year right now. Like, that would be the responsible thing to do, you know what I mean? But it's like it almost feels like play money.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you don't wanna take yourself out of the game, right? So if you're setting up or if you're looking to trade, because who doesn't like trading and making deals, right? Like, I think I often think about this, right? I think, do I want to be the guy that 100% only collects? And basically, when I get paid, maybe 5 or 10% of my paycheck each week, I'll buy myself something. Now, that sounds super simple, and that does sound super fun and fulfilling, and it forces you to be disciplined. But I think I would miss being at shows. I think I would miss, like, setting up at shows. I think I would miss seeing people. I think I would miss the art of the negotiation, because you've talked about before, right? Like, you are a collector at heart, and I don't even just mean cards. I mean everything from Beanie Babies to antiques. It doesn't matter. And you've talked before about how you just love the negotiation, right? And it doesn't matter if it's for $1 off or $100 off. It doesn't. You like, who doesn't love negotiation? I think that's why a lot of us probably gravitate toward like flea markets.
Yeah, yeah, it's a dance. I talk about this. It's a dance. You go out, you're gonna dance. I don't, you don't know what you're dancing, but there's gonna be a dance there, and as long as you know all the dances and all the moves, then you just go out and you're gonna dance, right? And you know what? And even the people, like even the people, and I'm not saying this in a cocky way with this dance that I'm the best negotiator, because I'm probably not the best negotiator, because you know I'm in a one of those positions where I don't need to go out and make a ton of money, right? And I talk about this. I don't need to, negotiate $1, $5, $10, $50, and I talk to like certain things of buying cars that I really loved. I didn't ever even comp the card out. I said, hey, do you know what the current comp is on it? And most of the time people will pull their phone out and say, well, this is what, then I'll be like, yeah, I'll take it, or will you take this for it? That type of thing. But when I'm selling on my end of the table, if you've been to my table before and I've sold to you, you're going to get a better deal. If you and I have a good relationship, I see you at shows or we've talked at shows, you're going to get a better deal. So I'm not I love negotiating, but I love the communication too. I just love seeing the people and being with the people and talking to the people, right? And going to these shows, it's more we get to know. Now we set up in Springfield, like we spent half the day, talking to people that listen to us or listen to the podcast or we've seen at other shows, people we've met, other dealers, right? We've walked around or they've come visit us, we visit them. It's a whole community. It's a whole community, and that's really what we look forward to. And I couldn't imagine you not setting up. I mean, this is probably not public knowledge, but I know the day before a show you're so excited you could barely sleep, right? Like you're so pumped up. Like we had to leave
It's
at
true.
4:30 in the morning. You'd be like, I was up like I don't think I ever slept. Maybe 2 o'clock, maybe an hour or two, because you get so excited. I mean,
I
this is
do. I get amped up. It's a lot of tossing and turning, man. It's a
yeah,
lot of tossing and turning, and it's just pure excitement. You
yeah,
know what I mean? It's pure excitement because I've, set up at so many shows now that, you know, when I'm leaving a show after, after having a good day and I'm leaving with cards I never imagined I would have acquired that day, that's an incredible feeling. So, knowing I'll be setting up at a big show tomorrow and knowing that I have no idea what's gonna walk up to my table or what I might be in a position to buy, that's a really, really cool feeling. It's almost like a drug.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And once you start setting up, that feels really good. And I think the same can be said too for people that just go to shows to walk shows when you bring cards. And even if you don't bring cards, just the hunt, right? Just like of course going to shows is addicting because yeah, probably 60 to 70% of the cases are going to be the same BS, the same stuff that like your sounds like you're getting out of the Josh Allens, the Mahomes, the Burrows, the Herberts, like 60% of it is going to be that stuff. But then there's going to be maybe 20-30% vintage, which is really, really cool. But then there's going to be like 10% of stuff that is going to blow your mind that you would have never in a million years thought you were going to see at the show. And I think that's what's so cool about it. And I think that is what can really plant that seed to start us shifting our gears, right? Shifting where we collect. Because a lot of times I don't know that I need a card until I actually set my eyes on it.
yeah. Until it created an excitement or sparked an emotion. I talked about this the last show. The guy came up with his case and he put it down and he said, "This stuff is so old. I mean, go through it. I don't even know what the values are. See if you're interested in anything." And I'm going through and didn't even understand what half the cards he had in there. And then all of a sudden I came across a card from the 1980 Olympics, right? And I'm like, oh my God, I have to have this card. I mean, the comp on this card was $8. And you would have thought that I just, found the $100,000 card that I was able to purchase. That's how excited I was to buy that card. So yeah, that you never know what's coming to your table, but it's so exciting when I used to be like, people say, "Oh, and you remember?" I'd be right next to you. They say, "Oh, are you buying?" Well, only this or that. Now I'm just like, "Yes, let me look through your case. I want to see every single card in your case. I don't want to miss a thing here." Yeah,
And you know what? I had that feeling tonight when I got that box in the mail of 1951 Bowman Commons, right? No one special, they were commons. There was a Phil Rizzuto in there, which was pretty cool because I actually just sold my 51 graded Rizzuto, and then I get a Rizzuto today, like literally the next day. So that was kind of cool. But So these $3 cards, oh my god, the feeling I had, I was on cloud 9, just looking at these, flipping through the binder, you know, organizing them, putting them all in, filling all these blank spaces, then opening up my Google Doc on my phone and being able to delete the cards that I finally just got and shorten this list of my needs list for this set was such a great feeling.
I have uh, I have cards. So when I was moving, I've had cards that I forgot about. I've had cards that I knew I had, but forgot I had,
Yep.
because I'm so involved in everything else. And I had some cards for you, some stuff for you that, and I was trying to find where they were because of course you pack, you move, everything's in boxes. I'm going through boxes, and I'm opening stuff I already own. Like these are my, it's not even coming in the mail. I'm like, oh my god, I forgot about this. I have my whole series of the tennis cards, all the PSA 10 tennis cards, all the goats from tennis, right? Just, oh my God, all these cards. I just completely forgot about them because when they're not displayed, when something's not out, I mean, I knew I had them. And if you asked me, I would have remembered I had them. But when I open a box and I'm like, oh, what is this? I get that same excitement. I'm like, oh yeah, these are mine. I own these. And I'm happy to own them. It's not a big lane out there in the hobby, but they're mine, right? They make me feel good. It's the excitement of it. Um, and it's been interesting finding some cards almost when I jumping back in the hobby, and I knew I had graded cards from hockey from the late 80s and early 90s. And because, as you mentioned before, I've been almost a serial collector my whole life of so many things. Had a whole room. I have a whole room with just boxes of stuff that I've collected over the years. So I had to go through these things, and that the excitement when I found those cards. Um, and it wasn't until I moved because I knew I had hockey cards, just regular hockey cards from the 70s that I not the ones that I bought as a kid, but back in the late 80s, early 90s, I bought a whole bunch of them and I had them boxed up. And when I moved, I came across all those. It was like just mass excitement. And you look up the comps because that's what we do. We look up the comps, and it's interesting with the hockey, like the Guy Lafleur and the Ken Dryden and all that. I mean, these were people, Phil Esposito. You look at these cards, they're a couple dollars a card. I mean, literally a couple dollars a card. And to me, my mind is blown because these were just people that, really changed the game the way we know it today. Right. Or I should say, changed the game then the way the people before the 80s and the 90s changed the game to what we know today. But, they were, even though hockey's been around a long time, they were, some of the goats of hockey, and it's just incredible how inexpensive the cards are. So it's nice to be able to collect, to buy things that are inexpensive too, right? I mean, you were just talking about that with baseball and like the 51s that you're buying for $3 a card, how good they make you feel, and it's probably even better that they're only $3 a card, right?
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt, man. And you know, as my PC continues to evolve and I continue to curate my collection, it feels good. It feels good. And I'm just excited to see, over the course of 2023, what the hobby brings and where my collection steers me, where my heart and where my mind steer me. Um, I'm just super excited about it. Super excited. But listen, before we wrap up, I just want to plug again. Um, we just started the Wolfpack Network, right? I mean, I think our listeners have heard us talk about the Wolfpack from day one on our episode. We finally made it a network and we really crewed up, and our crew is deep. And definitely give us a follow on Instagram at the Wolfpack Content with underscores in between each word. We're going to be dropping new episodes every 2 weeks on the podcast, not on our individual podcasts. You need to go find us, follow our Instagram account, and we'll link you. We'll be posting the links. Um, same way you listen to us, right? Whether if it's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and it's just kind of something we're trying, and we're gonna do specifically unique Wolfpack podcast episodes that you're not going to be able to hear anywhere else except for on the Wolfpack network. So that's kind of fun, kind of see where that goes, see if it turns into anything. It's almost like, you know, a group of friends, and we've been friends for, quite some time. And we finally said, you know what? Why not? Let's make this thing official. We all have our own thing that I feel like, really good at doing. So
And we
why not
complement
really?
each other. We complement each other well. So that's why I think
Yeah.
this is really going to work out well. Just getting to put, four of us together at a time. I think just being able to complement each other and bring, you know, different content than what we bring on our solo podcasts, and stuff I think people are really going to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we wrap up, Ken, any final thoughts? Any last words? We're coming up on an hour here.
Yeah, yeah. I do have to say, and I haven't said this yet, and for any of the listeners who haven't listened to your first PWCC episode that dropped last week, but when I heard the little piece about Frank Gifford, you talked about that Frank Gifford card. And whenever you gave the stats of him in 1 year, having the longest field goal, the longest punt return, the longest interception for a touchdown, like he had all this in one season. The guy played offense and defense. I mean, I was blown away. I had to go look this stuff up. I was absolutely blown away that who knew that in the 50s these guys were like you heard these guys, it was a two-way player, right? But that this guy could have held all those things. And if you haven't heard that or listened to that in your episode, definitely go back and check. What was the name of that episode? What did you call it? What'd you call
I think it was just you put me on the spot here.
it? Sorry.
Building a collection, not a portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a
Yeah,
great
with
episode.
PWCC.
Yeah.
And, I've had a lot of people hit me up and ask me, about PWCC and whatnot. As of right now, nothing's happening with me in PWCC. I'm just, I'm a big fan of their platform, and I'm a big fan of what they're doing, and as well as other platforms. I've talked to most of the major companies, that are in this hobby, that are in this space. And, you know, I have a lot of respect for what everyone's doing. And I think um, everyone, like you said, has their strengths, and everyone, kind of complements the hobby in a way. And it's just been really fun to do. And I think that's why Nate and I, we're gonna watch a PWCC auction live on Sunday night on my YouTube. And we're just gonna watch it, because you know what, it's something I'd be doing anyways. I'd be watching the PWCC auction anyways, so why not watch it with some people? Tune in, you can comment, have a live interactive chat, and kind of see where that goes. And, I might do more after that, or I might not. I don't know. But, I know I'm having fun doing it, Ken. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, yeah. Looking forward to Sunday night because I haven't done much on there. So going on and being able to follow along with you, and I told you this, just being able to follow along will probably help me be able to navigate that a little bit better when I decide to jump on there. But yeah, it's always a pleasure to hang out and talk cards with you.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Yeah, so for me, every Monday and Friday, new episodes drop. For Ken, every Monday and Thursday,
Yeah.
episodes drop. And Ken, you're doing great stuff over there, man. So definitely keep it up, uh, and be on the lookout for some Wolfpack content, I guess. And with that being said, guys, thanks for tuning in. Take care of yourselves and your collection.
And until next time, be good to yourselves and everyone around you. Take care, Rob.